Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. In the last video we have implemented all the operations that were important for our API, whether it was to get all the list of courses, or whether it was to add a new course, or whether it was to update or delete a course, right? Now in this one we will see how to do exception handling in our API. Okay, so if you go here and if you go over service implementation, we were doing that whenever we are getting a course. Suppose if you consider this method where we are passing a course ID, finding a course by course ID, and in case we found a course by a course ID, we are returning it, right? But if we are not able to find, we are throwing a runtime exception. Now what happens when you throw a runtime exception? Currently I have cleared my console. Okay, now if you see, if I pass a correct ID, suppose let me fetch the list of courses. So I have added few courses. Okay, here now suppose I take this course only and copy its ID, and I come here and copy paste this ID and execute. Now if I execute, I get the result here, right? So our API is working in this sense that if something is going correct, if the course exists, then we are getting a result. But what if the course don't exist, or what if we pass a wrong ID? Then what happens? So if I add something like 1 2 after this thing and now execute, so there is no course with this, and it gives us the status of 500 internal server error. Now if we come here in IntelliJ, then we see that a big stack trace is being printed here in the console, and if you scroll above, you will find that the message that we have given here, just a minute, here, no course found with the course ID this. Okay, so this is printed here, no course found with course ID and the course ID that we gave. So it is giving the result like this, but actually we want to pass this message to our client or our user who is trying to fetch this course. We don't want to print here in the console. So that is a problem that we have to solve, and we will apply a centralized way to handle the exceptions. Now runtime exception is a very generic exception. Any exception can occur at runtime, but we have to specify the exception that is happening at the runtime. Okay, so first of all, let me minimize all these things. What we will do is we will create a package here and we will say it as exceptions. In the exception package, we will create a new exception. So a Java class will be created, which we will say course not found exception, and this course not found exception will extend the runtime exception. Now we will create a constructor course not found exception, and this constructor will take a message in a string, and we will call a super class, that is the constructor of runtime exception. Now we are doing this because we know that when we are passing the message in the constructor of this runtime exception, it is getting printed to the console, but we want to send this message to the user. Okay, so we going to implement and printing the message, we are just calling the constructor of the runtime exception class so that it can directly print our message. Okay, first thing is this. Now even if we do this, after this we have to first then change it to course not found. Okay, so let me just copy paste it and let import the class and just copy paste all over here. Okay, now even if you do this, you will see that the same thing will happen again. If you enter a wrong course ID, or if the course is not found with the course ID, then it will give you a print stack trace in the console, and it will print the message there. It will not print the message where you actually require. You actually require your message to be in the response body. So you want your message to be in the response body, not in the console. So what to do? So you can create a class which we will say global exception handler. Now we are creating a new class which will handle all the exceptions whichever we will be using in our project. So currently we are only using course not found exception due to this, but in case going forward we will be seeing that we will implement further methods also when we will talk about aggregation pipelines and all those things. So in that case we may implement certain more exceptions. Okay, so all those exceptions can be handled at a single place and it will be in a uniform way. Okay, so how it will be done? First we have to annotate this class with REST controller advice. Okay, so what it means by REST controller advice is that when we make this class as REST controller advice, any controller which is annotated as at the REST controller, if a request goes through it and if an exception occurs, then this class which is annotated with REST controller advice is responsible to handle those exceptions and take care of the response body. Now we need to create a method which will handle a particular exception. Now the one important thing earlier used to come is whenever we are handling exception, whenever we want to send a response body, we used to create a class for the response. Okay, how our response body would be: it would include a status, it would include a message, it would include a timestamp. Okay, something like this. But after Spring 3 or you can say Spring Boot 3 and Spring Framework 6, there is a class which is known as problem detail class, which got introduced, and it made easy to handle the exception and to formulate a response body. So let's see about it. So first we will say public, and we will use problem detail class as a response body. So we will use it as return type. So we will say problem detail, and then we will say handle and course not found exception and course not found exception ex. We will pass the exception in the parameter. Now what you have to do is simply return an object of it. So how you will do it? Problem detail dot. Now there is a method for status and detail. So here in the for status and detail method, we can pass the status of the exception of, okay, as well as we can pass a message. So we will say http status dot not found. So this is our status that we are passing up, and the message will be the exception that we are taking in the parameter dot get message. Now what will come by get message? The get message will contain the message which we are passing in the constructor of this course not found exception class, right? So whatever message you pass here, it will come here in the ex.getMessage, but it will not recognize this method simply. Okay, you have to annotate it with exception handler. Okay, exception handler, and in here you have to pass an argument, write the class basically. So course not found exception dot class. Now once you do this, you will see how gracefully the exceptions are handled. So let's rerun our application. Now we will again pass a wrong course ID, and we will see how things react this time. So our application is running perfectly. Let me clear here the console. Okay, now let's go to the Swagger and let's reload the window. Now what I will do is I will again take let's first execute and get all courses, and I will just take the course ID here, and simply I will go to this get one course method, try it out, pass the correct course ID, and I will execute. So if I am passing a correct course ID, it will fetch the result as a response body. So this is perfectly fine. It was working earlier also, no problem in that. Now let's see if we pass a wrong course ID. So I pass 1 2 3 4, okay, something like this. It is a wrong ID. It does not exist in our database. No course exists with this course ID in our database. So let's see what kind of response now we get, because we have implemented a centralized exception handling. So if we execute this, now see in the response body it is saying type. Okay, you can change this type also. In the title it is saying not found. In the status it is saying 404. Earlier it was saying in status 500 internal server error, but now it is saying 404, the status that we have put here. And if you see here the detail, then it is giving us the message here. So if we have to develop a front end then we can use this response body which is provided by the Spring Boot itself, and we can fetch the messages, we can fetch the status also, all these things, right? And if you go here in the IntelliJ IDEA, so you can see in the console there is no stack trace, the one we were getting earlier. So it is completely clean. Okay, only the query has been fired, so it is just saying that, but there is no stack trace. So we have gracefully handled our exceptions and properly displayed the exceptional message that we want to convey to the user or the client, that there is no course which is found or which does not exist in a database with the course ID that you have provided us. So I hope you have understood this way of handling the exceptions. If you like the content, please subscribe to the channel, press the like button if you are liking the content, and do comment in the comment section if you are enjoying the series or if anything you are not understanding. Okay, so I will see you in the next one. Till then, bye bye.